Herbs are empowering medicine. They're not only useful for when we're sick or hurt, but they also enhance energy, health, and vitality. Ultimately, health is not just the absence of disease, it's a positive state physically, mentally, and spiritually. Herbs really shine in this area for everyday, radiant well-being. Plants really strengthen and tone the system and bodily organs. They're holistic, treating the whole body. We have to make sure that herbs are not just viewed as a replacement for modern medicine. Herbalism loses its purpose in that context and application. Herbs are at their best when they're used preventatively, interactively, and even as everyday food and beverage. There's an old saying that an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. Herbalism also looks at the patterns of an illness and gets to the source of the issue and prevents problems from reappearing, rather than simply just masking the symptoms and healing on a more superficial level. It's important to keep in mind that both herbalism and modern medicine both have value. There is no one best system or an either-or situation. If properly understood, the two modalities of healing can actually complement one another. There are times when modern, or what we call allopathic medicine, is more appropriate, and times when herbology is a better choice, and times when both can be used together or at different times during an illness. A good example would be Lyme disease. At the onset of a disease, it's important to take really strong antibiotics such as doxycycline. But you'll want to use supportive herbs during the course of that medication. For example, you may want to support the intestinal mucosa with something like slippery elm or marshmallow, which are wonderful herbs to use. And once the medication is discontinued, it's really important to support the liver and kidneys with herbal remedies to avoid any side issues. Nettles would be a wonderful example of a good herb to use during this time. So hopefully this example gives you a sense of when to use modern medicine and when to use herbal medicine and when they can be used together or at different stages of an illness. Science is more and more frequently playing a role in herbal medicine. Scientific research, however, is often based on single constituents. But plants are really best used in their whole plant state. All of the compounds are contained in the plants and work harmoniously together, just as our own bodies work synergistically rather than functioning as individual dissected parts. That being said, science has made many contributions to the field of herbalism and can add a rich understanding of how and why the plants work so well as medicine. I would also like to mention that there's a balance between studying the latest scientific research and spending time with the plants. Both have great value, and no matter whether you're more inclined one way or another, you simply cannot ignore the other. I spend a great deal of time with the plants, growing them, harvesting them in the wild, taking students on plant walks, working as an herbalist, and simply reconnecting at the deepest level when I'm in the forest. So make sure to make a visit to where the plants grow. Next, we're going to dive into the really fun part of the course, which is actually making some medicinal preparations. You'll find that this is much easier than you think. We will talk a little bit about some of the medicinal plants along the way, but we won't be going into very much depth about those at all. Otherwise, we would never have time to get to the actual learning how to make medicine. When you're first learning how, just start out in small batches in case things don't turn out quite the way you thought. Also, know why you're using each ingredient and what it's doing in the formulas. I think you should have some really great success, and if you have any questions along the way, certainly reach out to let me know. Tinctures are highly concentrated liquid extracts of herbs. They're one of the most popular ways to take herbal medicine, and for many good reasons. First of all, they're very easy to take. You can simply put them into a dropper bottle such as this and put some drops under the tongue, or you can put the tinctures into some sort of liquid such as water or tea or juice. Tinctures also get into the bloodstream very quickly, so this is very good for acute situations, something that is happening right now. However, tinctures are also often used and very good for more long-term chronic situations. Tinctures are also much easier to store than bulk dried herbs, which take up a lot more space. These are very small and concentrated and can be stored in many different places in your house or in your apothecary in a much smaller space. They also last for a very long time, especially if stored properly. So you want to make sure that they are stored in jars with tight sealed lids to keep the oxygen from getting at them, and also store them someplace away from light, whether it's sunlight or the interior lights. You just want to make sure that they're in a dark location and also a cool location. So store them away from any source of heat. And this will really help preserve your tinctures. Also, I like to, as I use the tincture, put them into smaller and smaller bottles. That also reduces the amount of contact with the oxygen. Herbs in tincture form can last for 2 to 3 years and probably even longer than that as well, as long as they are stored properly. Tinctures are also wonderful for first aid kits, whether it's your travel kit. They're very easy to take with you. You can simply put them in your purse and take them with you. Tinctures can be fairly expensive to purchase, but very inexpensive if you make your own, and it will last for quite a long time. They're very simple to make. There are really only 2 ingredients to make a tincture. The first one is the menstruum, which is the solvent used to extract the medicinal qualities of the plant. It's made by steeping the herbs in the menstruum and infusing to release those medicinal constituents. The second ingredient, of course, is the herbs. There are different types of menstruums and different ways of extracting the medicinal compounds from plants. The most popular way to make tinctures is with alcohol. It is used alongside water to extract those medicinal compounds and is one of the best ways to make your tinctures for a few different reasons. First of all, it is the most potent and extracts the most amount of compounds. And it is also very quick acting and readily assimilated into the system. It is also one of the best preservatives, so your alcohol tinctures will last for longer than any of the other ways of making tinctures, such as the acetas or the vinegar extracts, which we'll be talking about in a moment. The alcohol, when you buy it, comes as 100 proof or 80 proof is what you'll most often see. And what that means is the alcohol is already combined with the water in the bottle. So 100 proof means that it is 50% water and 50% alcohol. You might see 80 proof as well, which means that is 40% alcohol and 60% water. The higher the proof, usually the better, but if you can only find 80 proof, that is just fine. You can use a number of different types of alcohol. Traditionally, it was brandy that was used for most tinctures, but a lot of people actually do like to use vodka. It seems to be a little bit lighter, and this brand Tito's is actually gluten-free. Some people actually do even use gin as well. So you can choose which type of alcohol that you want to use for your tincture. Glycerin is another menstruum that you can use to extract the herbal constituents from plants to make your tinctures. Glycerin tinctures are called glycerites. They're wonderful for children or those that are sensitive to alcohol. They are not quite as strong as the alcohol tinctures, but they still have wonderful medicinal value. They're very good tasting, a bit sweet, and they're also very moistening to the system and high in nutrition. So it would be good to use glycerin if you want to make those tinctures that are for high nutrients. But you can use them for any number of different purposes. You want to make sure that you're going to be using fresh herbs for your glycerites. So you'll either have to purchase them fresh or wildcraft or harvest your own herbs for making the glycerites. As with alcohol tinctures, you can use fresh or dried, but be sure to use fresh with the glycerin. They do not preserve quite as long as the alcohol tinctures, so the glycerites will last for about 1 year if stored well, which is tightly capped in a cool, dry place. Vinegar can also be used to make your tinctures. It is called an aceta, and similar to the glycerites, the acetas are wonderful to make for children and those that are sensitive to alcohol. It won't be quite as strong as the alcohol tinctures, just like the glycerins. However, it does have wonderful benefits all its own. The apple cider vinegar, which is generally used to make the aceta, it helps to regulate the acid-alkaline balance in the system, which is great as a digestive tonic. And it's also good for those tonics such as calcium tonic, very high in potassium and also really high in enzymes. So there's all these added benefits to the medicinal qualities of whatever herb that you're extracting. It can be used for a long period of time to help rebuild and strengthen the system. It will last for about 6 months to 2 years. So again, it won't last for quite as long as the alcohol tinctures. However, if you do want to extend the shelf life of the aceta, you can certainly add some alcohol to it after the extraction process if you'd like to. Just make sure that you end up with 25% alcohol in the aceta to make sure that it helps preserve it.